What's up, fellow cast enjoyers? I have some exciting news for you. I recently got a promotion. Thanks to my well-established love of B-tier games, I am now the CEO of Jank. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal, not gonna lie to you, but don't you worry, I'm not gonna let success change me. That said, this role does come with some hefty responsibilities. For instance, I am now contractually obligated to try and find something good to say about every janky game out there. That's why we got Balan on the thumb over there, see? Now, Balan Wonderworld is actually a fantastic idea for a game. Jokes aside, it's not even that bad of a game, but it does kinda suck and I can see why it got dunked on. Even I dunked on it. But still, that concept, jumping into people's dreamscapes and helping them solve their worldly problems, that's a pretty good idea. So then I thought, I bet there's a ton of games out there just like that. The intention was good, the dev's heart was in the right place, the idea was good, even great perhaps, and then they just missed the swing. So let's go, let's check out some bad games with great ideas. Soulcalibur is most assuredly one of the finest games ever made and a true Dreamcast classic. When I was a kid, I used to love reading all the lore about the characters and the stages. The mission mode with all its briefings and flavour text had me imagining full scenarios in my head about sailing all over the world, getting into adventures and quests and duels with all my boys. I had always hoped that one day Namco would fully realise the world of Soulcalibur into an action-adventure sort of game. Enter Soulcalibur Legends, a game with a less than sterling reputation. It reviewed extremely poorly, which as you may guess is going to be a theme here, but why? I refuse to believe that a game with such an excellent premise has no merit at all, and so here we are, ready to give it a full redemption. Well, that's a little strong maybe. I can definitely understand some of the criticisms this game gets, which I'll cover in a while, but first of all, let's get real fucking happy and focus on those positives. To start, yes, this is exactly what I had been asking for. A full-on, globe-trotting epic where I play as my favourite Soulcalibur characters and go on little adventures with them. It's basically what would happen if they expanded the mission mode into a full game, and that is what I wanted. Narratively, this game retells the origin story of Soul Edge, where Siegfried defeats Cervantes and gets the sword, and then it sort of retcons the events of Soulcalibur into a bunch of anime plotlines, but I ain't even mad at that. The main thing is, all your best mates are here. We got Siegfried of course, but also we get to play as Ivy, Mitsurugi, Astaroth, Sophitia, we meet Cervantes, Lizardman's here as like a grunt type of enemy, and the list goes on.
Pain only lasts an instant.
Yes!
The voice acting is a mixed bag, but hey, we got Lani Minella here as Ivy, so her list of cool roles keeps growing. And if, like me, you're a sucker for that dopamine hit of recognising characters and references, then there's definitely going to be something here for you. Now, all that sounds great, right? So why did it review so poorly? And most importantly, did it deserve that flack? Well, it's a goddamn Wii game for one thing, and you know what that means? Yeah, we waggling all over the damn place. Motion controls are one of my least favourite things to ever happen to video games, and I'm really glad that they're less prevalent now. Don't get me wrong, I can enjoy Wii Sports Resort with the best of them, but the Wii waggle was shoehorned into games that clearly didn't need it, and that's when it started to really suck. So one strike against the game here for Wii controls, but that also has to do with some of the limitations and or proclivities of the console, and so we won't judge it too harshly for that, even though I don't like it. Next up, it's a little generic. It essentially feels like a cross between Devil May Cry and Dynasty Warriors, but without the flashy combat of the former and without the epic battles of the latter. It's very much a corridor slasher, but I don't intrinsically hate that. Valkyrie Elysium got a lot of stick for having a similar approach recently, and that's one of my favourite games of the last few years. But the difference, I guess, is that Valkyrie Elysium looks beautiful, and this does not. I don't mean that in a console generation way, that we just have more high-powered graphics cards now. I'm talking about the level design. Valkyrie Elysium has huge beautiful marble palaces and dramatic crumbling ruined castles and so on and so forth, whereas Soulcalibur Legends has the same snow level that you'll play 3 times. Some mansion. A cool looking but overused Egyptian level. You get the drift. So yeah, it's lacking in imagination, I can't argue with that, but that doesn't make it a bad game. And even if it did make it a bad game, that's what we're here for, right? To celebrate some great ideas that maybe didn't quite hit how they should have. Essentially, this feels either low budget or low effort, and I'm not sure which, but I really can't be mad at it because I had a lot of fun with it. I think it goes a long way if you love the world like I do. For instance, I was hyped as fuck here dodging cannonballs while I scaled up Cervantes' ship to duel with him. I guess I'm saying that I recommend the game if you are already into the franchise, but steer clear if you're not. Either way, it's a fine idea, but it didn't stick the landing, which of course is the theme. So, have you ever heard of Industrial Spy Operation Espionage? Even if you have, I couldn't blame you for forgetting the name, seeing as how it's just a bunch of popular 90s buzzwords slapped together. Very generic. And yet the game itself is anything but generic, in fact it kinda fucking slaps. So behind this very bare bones presentation there is actually a relatively sophisticated game. It's all about strategy and tactics, and it's the sort of thing I could see doing well on PC, kinda like how Omicron was nominated for an award on PC but it bombed on the Dreamcast. I guess console audiences were just less in the pocket for this sort of shit back then. Anywho, what do? Well, you command a team of spies to conduct espionage operations, mainly stealing and hacking stuff really. The setup reminds me of the heist stuff in GTA 5, but if you turned that into a real-time strategy game. The premise then is that on each mission, your agents turn up in some place to do some sketchy shit. You get a little briefing and then you're just left to explore and work it out for yourself. You gotta slap guards around, open shutters, deactivate lasers, etc. And the first few times I tried to engage with this game, I bounced off it a little bit. It can be quite esoteric at times regarding exactly where you need to go and what you need to do, and most importantly which agent you need to be. You can flick through them all on the fly with the R and L bumpers and assign them orders whenever you like. Eventually this shakes out to where you'll have 4 different agents doing 4 different things and you're just sort of masterminding it and watching it all come together. Or fail horribly since they put a friggin' mimic in the first mission. It's not an easy game by any stretch, and let's be real, it's not a very aesthetic one either. But I love the idea of a non-lethal espionage game. None of your dudes are fighters per se, they don't run around with knives and sniper rifles. You aren't assassins. If a rent-a-cop rolls up on you, you're probably capable enough to give them a slap, but otherwise you'd rather avoid conflict. Now when I think about heist-type games, especially in the current gen, it's all about high-octane white-knuckle thrills and leaving a pile of dead bodies in your wake, but I think there's a place for this more quiet, subtle approach too. Plus, when the mood takes me, I am a sucker for this strategy stuff.
Tougher than leather, you can call me Knuckles. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles, I'm hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell, I break them down whether they solid or frail. Unlike the rest, I'm independent since my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left.
Knuckles is by far and away my very favourite character in the Hedgehogverse. He's a cool, charismatic echidna who's been a fan favourite ever since his introduction, and as such, it makes sense that a game starring him would be a roaring success. But alas, no. Knuckles Chaotix for the Sega 32X did not do well at all. A quick caveat here, in Japan this was released simply as Chaotix, and if it had stayed that way I would have just ignored it and left it to languish in obscurity. I do not know who the Chaotix are, and I do not care. But I do care about Knuckles, and Western marketing decided to put him front and centre. So here we are with our big red friend chained up to his friends for some reason and bumbling his way through some incredibly frustrating stages. Now all that negativity out of the way, let's talk some sugar here. What's the great idea then? Well, there's a few things that I like really. Number one, rightly or wrongly, the thing is Knuckles branded, and I dig that. The idea of letting Knuckles take the lead in his own game definitely has legs. Cue my pitch again for Knuckles Adventure, the game that Sonic Adventure 2 should have been. On top of that star power, I like the art style here. It's all kind of weird and janked up and messy, but it has a definite direction and the stages do have some variety in their presentation. So if this game was just Knuckles as he appeared in other 2D games, gliding and climbing about in these stages, I would have loved it. The problems with this game are entirely mechanical. I do like the character select option. I always appreciate that in games and it's cool to play as Vector too. The bad feelings arise when you realise you gotta spend the entire game chained together with somebody else. And I don't mean that metaphorically like how in Sonic 2 Tails would follow you around, I mean you are literally chained, and there are a lot of puzzles that rely on that. Look at how fucking long it took me to ride on an elevator here with Vector and this cute little robot. I can't redeem Chaotix, but it did have something going on for sure. And I still eagerly await Knuckles' adventure. Let's make it happen, people. Okay, tell me what you see here. I would like you to guess, if you will, what famous Sega franchise this game is from. It all looks very futuristic, doesn't it? Very high tech. We have those little robots just above our shoulders. What's the name of those? Mags? Nope, that ain't a mag, and this game has nothing to do with Phantasy Star. In fact, this is a Virtua Fighter game. Yes, that Virtua Fighter. But this is Virtua Quest, and essentially sets out with a similar goal to Soulcalibur Legends. To take the characters and locations of a famous fighting franchise and expand the whole thing into a big old platformy action game.
Let me see just how strong you have become.
Wait a fucking minute, isn't Jeffrey supposed to be Australian? Jokes aside, I actually really like this game, just not for any of the reasons it wants me to. As an adaptation of the Virtua Fighter franchise, it is an abject failure. However, as a carefree Saturday morning cartoon type of fun platformer, it knocks it out of the park. Check it out, we got our jumps and our double jumps, we can grapple and swing with our wires just like a hook shot. And we can also run along walls like with Naruto or some shit. Alarm bells did ring for me when I checked out the control scheme and there was only one attack button, because, you know, Virtua Fighter. However, this game very clearly never wanted to be Virtua Fighter. I even wonder if perhaps the game was already half made before they got the license and then they just shoehorned a few Virtua characters in there. That's how it feels, because honestly this is much more interested in being a cool traversal and exploration platformer than it is in a fighting game. I genuinely think that if we took the Virtua Fighter branding off of this one, critics would have been kinder. So let's see what we're left with here then. Well, according to IGN, we have action that is mediocre at best, platform elements that feel sloppy and unrefined, and the graphics and sound are equally forgettable.
Are you the one who seeks power?
I disagree. Look at this cute little street here with the sunny afternoon vibes, or the bright hues of this train station, or the nice big mall section here. Video games used to love having nice big mall sections. Honestly, I would recap the story here, but it's very forgettable, apart from the weird detail about every Virtua Fighter tournament being an evil scheme for a shadowy organisation to collect battle data. It's nonsense, and that's okay. I really don't need a good story to have fun. The whole package just kinda hits for me. I keep coming back and playing more of the game, so it's clearly doing something right. I definitely can't recommend this as a Virtua Fighter game by any stretch, but if you do enjoy 3D platformers from the early 2000s, then you could certainly do a damn sight worse than this one. It takes a big person to admit they were wrong, and folks, I admit that I was wrong about Undercover 2025 ADK. In a previous video, I said that it sucked, but it actually fucking rules. So I want to return to it today and explain what changed my mind and made me realise that it is in fact a banger. When I originally covered the game, I specifically played it in the hopes of defending it and redeeming it. You see, IGN of all places decided to do a hatchet job on this one back when it dropped. In that review, the writer spends an inordinate amount of time talking about the curves of the protagonist's ass rather than really covering the game in any meaningful way, but ultimately they said that it sucked. They gave it 2 out of 10 or some shit. As such, I wanted to play it and prove them wrong, but that was a difficult task as my initial impression was negative too. That is, until I spent a little bit more time with the mechanics. You see, the movement controls are pretty stiff and annoying. IGN did have a point on that one. However, if you can master the strafing, crouching and rolling, then it all starts to come together quite nicely. Look at this poor effort from my first run through. And now take a look at these Chad moves I was able to pull off once I'd got used to the controls. But before we get into all of that mechanical jazz, what is this game? It's an action game with some light puzzle elements a la Headhunter. Something in a near future police story set in Japan, but it's pretty thin on plot otherwise. You wronged this big drug cartel guy, so he blows up your partner in revenge and you gotta go and chase him down. Standard 80s popcorn movie stuff, but I do dig all that. Also, you have this robot cat, so that's pretty neat.
嫌になるわ。まだ朝食もとってないのに。
The game starts with you rolling up in this hotel where some shit's popping off, several people have been murdered, but you come in blasting and get yourself a card key. Now this is where I gave up the first time through, as the key didn't seem to open any of the doors here. Upon replaying it, I now realise that this has the Resident Evil 1 mechanic, where a door will never automatically check if you have a key. You have to stand in front of the door, open your inventory, and manually choose the key. A little bit clunky, but nothing game breaking once you know what you're doing. And then after you've worked that out, you can actually get into what is a genuinely enjoyable game. Janky is all hell of course, but look who you're listening to here. If you don't want jank, then you're in the wrong place. The game does have a few neat mechanics, not least of which is the ability to hold up enemies. If you train your gun on them without firing, they will surrender and give you something like ammo or health. I could only get this to work when my gun was empty, since the reload animation takes a while and while you're doing it the bad guys think you're aiming the gun at them and they surrender. It's weird, but it ended up playing into my overall strategy. I'd keep an eye on my ammo and work out when my next holdup was due. After a while you find Fat Otacon over here and he opens up the shutter doors for you so you can access the kitchen and the rooftop areas. Also this opulent ballroom here where you can really take in the sunny blue skies after your shootout. Once you get up on the roof it all starts to get a little bit Metal Gear. You got these big aircon units here with the little crawl spaces that you can sneak under. The stealth play here is very rudimentary, but it's still a welcome addition. And after the opening raid mission is done, we get a change of pace walking around the city streets at night, checking into this dingy hotel, carousing with the locals outside a posh nightclub. A little bit more Metal Gear sneaking and scoping. There's just a pleasant pace to the whole endeavour, and even with the limited amount of things to do, I would say that the game stays fresh. After getting used to the controls and blasting through the first few sections, I started to develop a very positive view of this game, and I am going to play it through to completion. It's certainly not an all-time classic, but it does have a nice aesthetic and it has fun if simple gunplay, maybe on the level of something like Siphon Filter, which is another game that I love dearly. So if you like kinda generic third-person shooters from this era, I think you should definitely check this one out. But stick at it and get used to the weird controls, and if you do that you'll soon be having a fine time. Well, I said I'd be back to cover Virtual on Marz, and here I am. Straight off the bat then, this game is a hated port of the considerably more popular and successful Virtual on Force. I have replayed all the mainline Virtual on games recently because I got that Japan only collection. You can check out my review by clicking whatever's popping up at the top of the screen right now. In that review I talked a lot of sugar about Virtual on Force, and I had reason to doubt the skeptics on this PS2 port. Simply put, it has a campaign mode, and I'm all in for that because not enough fighting games did that back in the day. So really what I'm looking at here then is the dramatic mode, and let's see if it lives up to the name.
At wit's end.
Oh yeah, that's really dramatic. In truth, it actually has a similar approach to Soulcalibur's mission mode, insofar as the missions themselves are really just matches, but they have flavour text around them to give some kind of narrative to what's supposed to be happening. Now this worked excellently in Soulcalibur because of the big globe-trotting feel of traversing around the map, unlocking secrets and so forth. Whereas here in Marz it's a lot more rote. You just go from one mission directly into another, and the flavour text itself is nowhere near as rich or evocative. All that said, it does make good on some of its potential promises in terms of multiple enemies, freedom of movement, varied objectives, etc. As the name would suggest, you're battling on Marz, and that very much called to mind Zone of the Ender's second runner for me, since again that's a game predominantly about mechs battling on Marz. However, I certainly wasn't expecting the plot and dialogue of Zone of the Enders, so I didn't necessarily come away disappointed. The story here is super thin, but it's all about getting you from battle to battle and doing virtual on shit. And the thing is that doing virtual on shit is good. It's a tried and true fighting engine that has produced banger after banger. And so even if the mission mode here is pretty lackluster, the battles are still enjoyable, which is entirely the point of the game. For what it's worth, I had a decent enough time running through dramatic mode, but it didn't grip me enough to want to finish it. Now all of that said, I still don't understand the hate. Nobody is buying Virtual On for single player story mode apart from me, specifically in this instance. Most fans are just going to want to duel their favourite mechs, and you can still do that here. Graphically, it's not as good as the Hikaru version because the PS2 hardware just wasn't as powerful, but the movement and controls still feel spot on to me. Well guys, I'd say that was a pretty successful first shift as CEO of Jank. Thank you for joining me. It's going to be tough next time when I gotta find nice things to say about Spirit of Speed 1937, right? Oof. But for now, I will just say thank you very much for watching. Please slap that thumb, bell, etc. if you had a good time, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next one.